legend, Coach G, A&M soccer. I know the world of soccer, how it's soccer legend, Coach G, because it's World Cup time here across, well, I was going to say America. That'd be a lie. The world, it's World Cup time. How you doing, G?
It's doing great. It's the bestest time of the year for me.
I would say that for many sports fans, the World Cup is the entire world. It's been a phenomenal start to the World Cup. It's been a phenomenal World Cup. There's been a million different storylines. For me, being the casual observer of all this first round...
I think you're more than casual. I think you have a bit of a stake in what happens in sports in the United States.
I'm a fan.
Okay.
I'm a fan. Okay, without a doubt. I love sports. That's one thing about me. I just love sports. I love good stories. I love good action.
Yep.
But this first round, because everybody's played now, you had the names, the Ronaldo, oh my God, what happened, and Messi with the hat trick. And you had Team USA give their greatest performance maybe ever. But then you had the little engines that could. Like, this felt so NCAA basketball March Madness in the context of Cinderella had their day, favorite showed up, everything happened in this first round of the World Cup.
Well, exactly. Using an analogy of the NCAA basketball tournament, there's so much that is similar between basketball and soccer, football, however you want to describe. And you can talk to a lot of people. Our good friend Gary Blair, always talked about how big of a soccer fan he was. His son played, but as his son was growing up and playing, and he's watching, he's like going, "It's the same triangles out there. It's the same support. As you watch a lot of these games and you see a lot of the things happening that how the results happen and how the goals happen, more than." Basketball, a lot of it is scoring when the clock is stopped, free throws and inbound passes. And then another part of it is, if you look at buckyball, is transition play. Can you play in transition? And can you put the heat on them as soon as you lose the ball, which you call counter-pressing? So can you counter-press and score in transition? Or do you need to sit back, invite them in, let them get a little bit comfortable, open some space up, and then you play in transition? And it's the same thing that you see in some of these crazy results. Now, there's no three-pointers, but there's the idea of...
There are shots from downtown, though.
Now, the only big difference is that, basketball is 5 players, soccer is 11, and the court for soccer is 23 times larger than a basketball court.
Yeah, but the way they play, they're so athletic, it doesn't feel 23 times larger.
And it's been benefited. There's a few things that I think have really benefited the game. The purists would disagree with this, but one of the things is the stadiums in the United States have been spectacular, and they've been taken. People just can't believe Jerry World. They can't believe from one to the next to the next. But the difference between this World Cup that are played in these stadiums and the World Cup in '94 is, number one, you're able to play in air conditioning, but you're not bringing in pallets of grass to put down. They've brought in the experts to come in and actually look at putting grass surfaces into NRG Stadium and into AT&T Dallas Stadium and into Atlanta and these places. And the response that the players are giving is that it's as good a pitch as they've ever played on. And that, again, let's put a little bit of thumbs up to the agronomist out there. But that's helped. And then the other part that, again, I think purists would argue with me about is the water breaks or the hydration breaks. Or the commercial breaks, whatever you want to call them.
The volume of discourse you say purists. So yeah, the hardcores, the purists hate. It's ruining their pure game, and it's just money grabs, and it's 4 quarters, and 4 quarters will never be soccer. Man, gee, the amount of discourse. There's been more discourse over the hydration breaks than maybe any other element.
Yeah, it's easy. It's an easy target. It's low-hanging fruit.
Okay.
But I'll tell you what it has done, and I can say this from a coaching perspective, is it levels the game. Because if you're playing 45 minutes and you are the minnow against the whale, and
if you're Cape Verde,
against Spain, and you know that you've got to hold on to this thing for 45 minutes without a break, and they're banging on the doors, and you're putting fingers in the dike, and you're trying to hold out the water. Well, all of a sudden, 22 minutes comes, and now you get to go to the sideline. They have technology on the sideline. The coach can now make adjustments because there's no timeouts in the game, so the only adjustments that come from the coaching staff is either standing on the sideline waving like a crazy person and trying to get information in, or trying to transmit information through players, which is like Chinese whispers. And so now all of a sudden they come to the sideline, and what the 4 quarters is now, instead of having to hold on for 45 minutes, you're holding on for about 22 and a half minutes. And that's a significant difference. You talk about the fatigue factor in those. That's why most goals are scored in either the first 5 minutes or the last 5 minutes
or the 95th
of a match, or plus. All of that is making these games tighter. So you look at a couple of these groups where everyone tied the first round. Well, I think that played a part in it. It's not the exclusive, but it if you talk to the managers of the minnows, they're like, thank God for that, and my courageous goalkeeper, or whatever, or the misses that the whale had.
41-year-old again, just back to Cape Verde. The 40-year-old,
they're awesome.
7 saves, and he had that one sequence where he makes it up, out in front of the box, then at the box, then he tips it over the keeper of the tournament in a sequence.
Yeah, I think that he went from like 50,000 followers to over 2.5 million followers. Yeah. That's good boy. Well
it's just
done.
One of the great stories you get there.
It is, but it's one of those things that is one of the unique qualities of soccer, and we've talked about this, for decades. Like, well, it was soccer. That's how and that's why it's so hard to win championships, and it's so difficult. So, you've got Argentina coming in, who had a very good performance. Lionel Messi with a brilliant, carefree afternoon or evening in the game. It is so difficult to repeat in this because there's so many of these variables that you just can't control. And sometimes it's going to be the hot goalkeeper, like you would see sometimes in hockey, or sometimes it's going to be you get that break and you get that breather. Sometimes it's you come out a little bit too casual, like France did in their match against Senegal, until halftime came. They said, "Okay, boys, let's pick it up." Probably in French, and
it sounded different when they did it.
And
is that what you're saying?
And they did, and they put it into another gear. So there's so many great stories that are already circulating around, and I think one of the best stories is just on how the American public is looking at this. And you look at whether it's the fan fests, which are in the different cities, or just in local bars and restaurants. It's not just background noise that's going on, in the bar area. It's people in there celebrating and excited, and they know the stories.
Well, I think for the USA, like you said, embracing it, right? The European fans have so embraced it, whether it's the orange takeover in Dallas before the game, and
about to be Houston on Saturday,
right? And the way they've embraced it makes you embrace them. Does that make sense? It's a synergistic thing.
Yeah.
And what Scotland, before their game, they took over the entire city almost. I mean, it's been a both ways
and they took over Fenway the day after.
Thank you.
And I think Sam Adams Brewery said that they had sold 4 times as much beer as they usually do on a big holiday weekend like the 4th of July. Thank you, Scotland. There's a little bit of an economic impact
These
there.
moments have went both ways. When you see the way the Europeans have loved their experience and they're sharing it, and then it brings you into it too.
That's right. Well, and it kind of pokes in the eye of the pre-written media narrative. I won't say it's Texas media, but the media narrative that Americans are inhospitable. We don't like people to visit us. We don't like foreigners, and get the hell out. And we don't want to know about it. And now they come and they're like, oh my gosh, these Americans are the greatest people ever. We've been invited into this. We talked about last week about Freddie, the German, who's been treated like a rock star all of a sudden, and now it's gotten on steroids. All the people jumping on top of that.
Yeah,
but that's only one of the public things. The things that are happening behind the scenes are just the smiles on the internationals' faces that they come in. They're like, wow, this isn't what we were told in our newspapers and in the internet that it was going to be like. That it was going to be like in America, and that's refreshing for those of us who know. It's refreshing to remind people that America is a great place, and it's a great place because of great people and the values that we have. Now, we've got to keep it going. We can't let it go off the rails.
We still got 6-7 weeks left.
And then I think the other big story, of course, is how the pre-written story was going to be disappointment of the United States national team. And I even last week when I was in, I was like, kind of gritting my teeth, like I think we can do well, but I'm worried about our goalkeeping. I'm worried about our leaky defense. Well, our offense was so good that we could outscore them last week. And
you were kind of hinting at 4 one-goal matches, no matter who won.
Yeah, well, again, part of these
Three.
Part of these water breaks. I think that to an extent was going to be, what could have happened. And I'm really happy to say that I underestimated the United States especially in that first half. The way that we came out and put pressure on them. What Pochettino has done as our manager, as far as the press and the relentless American spirit to get the ball and then do something with it quickly is really refreshing. And it's it's one of the big stories of the world's event.
Well, the 4 goals was the most that USA has ever scored in a World Cup match. And I always like that kind of perspective because I know a 3-goal win margin is great by almost any team against any opponent in the World Cup. It doesn't matter how big the underdog is. So 4-1 is an incredible result, period. But for perspective, for Team USA, they'd never scored 4 goals before.
Well, and also Paraguay.
In a match.
Paraguay came in with people are going, oh, well, it's Paraguay. Paraguay did great in the South American qualifying, 18 games. I think they gave, in 18 games, I want to say off the top of my head, 12 goals is all they gave up. So they're giving up less than a goal a game, and the Americans smack them with 4 is, okay, maybe Paraguay had a bad day, but they had a bad day because of our good day.
How did Team USA put up the 4 goals? How did that performance come about?
Well, I think it's the pressure and the athleticism that we have in our attacking half of the field. I mean, you look at Christian Pulisic, you look at Serginho Dest, you look at Balogun up front, and all across the board. I'm on a few text groups with friends around the country, and there were a few. One of the coaches was saying, we're more athletic than they are, but it's not just we're more athletic than they are. We're more athletic, and we're thinking faster than they are, and I think that was a big part of it. So even in the 4th goal where we put together, I think 26 passes. I mean, if you were to go back in time to 1974, 1978, these were the great Dutch teams, and it was total football. And for those, it was like 14 passes was pretty darn amazing. And here it is, the United States has just put together 26 and finished with an outside of the foot bender into the far post. Nobody would have believed it. And that is part of the magic of kind of what's happening right now. Now, again, they're going to play the Aussies tomorrow night or tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock. And the Aussies were, I think the Aussies are coming in with a bit of a chip on their shoulder. They had a chip on their shoulder against Turkey, who, again, I thought Turkey was the best team.
You thought A&M Turkey would maybe decide the group.
Yeah, it still might. But at the same time, they laid in. They defended bravely. They were great, and then they countered with lightning fast efficiency going forward. And they don't just upset Turkey. They beat them 2-0. And in the end, you look at the scoreline, you're like, wow, okay, what's going on with the Aussies? Well, that's what our guys have got to be a little bit cautious of, because we have to be able to break down that organized defense, but we also have got to be able to handle. And again, my hesitancy on the U.S. is our captain is an older defender, great guy, good passer of the ball, but I worry about the athleticism of our back line. The goal that we gave up to Paraguay was after we made a series of substitutions, and in my opinion, Tim Weah, who's a great player, his father was a former World Footballer of the Year from West Africa, from Liberia, who ended up becoming president of Liberia.
What?
He's a football star.
Okay.
So,
hey, we had actors.
That's right. So, but I think Weah fell asleep a little bit on the back door, and that's where they slipped the ball into and scored against us. So, those little things, those have got to be cleaned up, and I'm sure that they've looked at over and over. Christian Pulisic nursing a bit of a banged up calf. Is he going to play? That's still one of the secrets of the team at the moment. but all to play for. And they go up to Seattle. It's a great environment in Seattle's in the football stadium up there. And I think it's only going to just add another degree of excitement to what's going on, and more great stories.
If we have a winner, no draw, but a winner tomorrow, A&M Australia, winner advances.
USA, Australia, exactly.
Okay,
it's the way I think about it. It's exactly the way I think about it.
USA, Australia, if we have a clean winner, they advance. They're done.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. They go through.
You can just control your future, handle your fate, keep life simple. Get the dub.
But why would we make it simple?
Because it's simple. Take the stress off. They play Turkey, and you could work on things. You could have a different set of.
Well, you could rest some key people.
Correct.
Is what you could do.
You got anyone less than 90%? You could have them take the match off.
That's right. And again, our depth on this team is really interesting because substitutions bring slightly different tactics, and that's something that hats off to Pochettino for that first round game because it was masterclass for US.
Who's the favorite tomorrow?
We are.
Okay, I'm not sure how that who Vegas says or who soccer experts say, but who's the favorite? So USA is the favorite.
Yeah, we are, and we're playing on. It's our home field, in the United States. It's going to be our crowd, and I think that I think our guys will look at it as they are expected to win this game. The Aussies, of course, like I said, they're going to come in with a chip on the shoulder, a bit of an underdog, wrath of the underdog coming at you. So I think it'll be an entertaining game. Crossing my fingers for a couple more goals again.
Just I'm a win. I don't care. 1 goal, 1-0, 2-0,
Yep.
5-4. Don't care, right?
Totally
win
agree.
in advance.
Just win, and you advance.
We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More World Cup with A&M legend Coach G. And look, I always say you can text me. Coach G's here. Text him. Leave me out of this. 979-693-1150. Light up the Texas Mobile and Lube Express inbox. Text 979-693-1150. World Cup time. How often do you get to text World Cup? About once every 4 years. 979-693-1150. It's the Louie Bellina Show. Thursday on The Zone.
Because life is so much more than just sports.
Pickles, I like pickles.
Join Chip Howard, evenings 4 to 6 on The Zone.
The Louie Bellina Show, Thursday lunchtime, thanks to Rudy's Barbecue. Louie Bellina Show inside the Charles Schwab studio. I'm joined by A&M legend Coach G. It's World Cup time all summer. Thursdays noon. Coach G is going to join me, and we're going to talk World Cup. Before we move into what's ahead, and tomorrow, Team USA, don't call them Team America or people will arrest you. Team USA will be in action against Australia, and Coach G was mentioning it's a great day tomorrow in the World Cup. We'll go over that. Looking back again to this opening round of every team's had their first match day. I love that phrase.
Yep.
Everyone should have a match day. Yep. That's just so soccer. It's just so brilliant. But I think also, we were talking about how incredible the whole opening underdogs had their day, the favorites had their day. When you have, for the average casual soccer fan, when the big names, okay, the Messi hat trick, everyone knows him.
Yep.
Ronaldo, his team hates him. You know the storyline. The team hates him. He was seen walking out there. And then you had the announcers on the desk go, it's time to move on from him. These kind of mainstream, is what I'll call it, storylines, gets everybody. Hardcores will talk about it. The average talk about it. Even if you watch like 2 soccer matches a year, you know those guys. Spain getting tied. Everybody knows Spain's soccer. France, Mbappe, did I say his name right?
Yep.
Okay. Mbappe put up, 2 goals? I mean, having the stars, and I don't care the sport, deliver, even if it's in failure, let's say, gets everybody talking.
Well, I think what it does is it sets up what people want a little bit more of a sure thing. And one of the again, we talked about before when Argentina played Honduras at Kyle Field, Lionel Messi didn't play.
Yeah.
But the rest of the number 1 team in the world was out there and played,
they're pretty good.
And they did pretty well. It was entertaining. But again, the narrative was, well, I'm not going to go because Messi's not going to play. Okay. The Argentinians had a really good performance, but Messi walks around most of the game, and so a little bit of defense of Ronaldo. Now, again, Cristiano Ronaldo was, he appeared to be rather selfish in the runs that he wasn't making for his teammates,
and frustratedly selfish too.
Yeah, well, and I think that he and Bruno Fernandes have a a bit of a, from their time at Manchester United, have a little bit of maybe there's been some problems, but I can't say that because I don't speak Portuguese or read Portuguese lips. So I think for the most part, those two teams, Spain and Portugal, they're still kind of in the pit, ready to come out. And you point back to the last World Cup in 2022, and the big story from the first round was Saudi Arabia beating Argentina in the first round match, and Argentina went on to win the championship. So it's not over, but all it does is it just sets the stage for some of these superstars to come through. And again, there are a lot of superstars on that Portuguese team, and I think that's one of the side stories is like, can the superstar team all play for each other, or are they out there playing for individual honors
Alan
and such?
Texted, and he asked the question. He says, Coach G, I love Ronaldo, but is it time to bench him? Can you bench Ronaldo? Can you?
Well, that's been one of the questions when he was at United, when he was in Saudi Arabia. Is he a bigger brand than your team? And that's a question that the manager has got to determine with him. Like, listen, if you're not going to put it in, then we're going to put you out.
But isn't it established he's not?
No.
Okay.
Because he put himself in position to score. I'm sure that they'll be looking at a lot of
I've
game
seen
film.
the clips back. Actually, the others have done the work, and he was there.
Yeah.
And they didn't even look at him at times.
So I mean,
it is an unhealthy
I'm
relationship
biased.
on that team.
I'm biased because I've been a Ronaldo fan since he was a teenager, and but you've got to do the manager has a responsibility to the national team to find a way to win, and if it's with him, great. If it's not with him, then that's an alternative as well.
Wow. Matt in College Station texted and said, Coach, how would you protect against the counterattack from Australia?
Well, I think you've got to make sure that you watch your spaces, that they like to counter into, and part of that will be taken care of naturally by the way our guys play and the way that we counter press when we lose the ball, especially when we lose the ball in the middle of the field. But I think being quick, but having ideas that you're not going to take unnecessary risks in the middle third, because that's where they can jump and go. And over the course of if you lose a ball 25 yards from the Australian goal, that's where we are at our best, when we're really putting pressure on that, especially when Pulisic is in the match. So I think you've got to have what we refer to as rest defense, so that when your team is on attack, your defenders are not switched off. They are stepped up into positions where when a ball does pop into a 50-50 zone, that they have the advantage to step in and win it. So you're not just stepping behind a defender goal side. You might be stepping up shoulder to shoulder. You're stepping into a position so that if a ball goes over the top, you're still okay. If a ball goes in front of you, now you can step in and win the ball.
So before we move forward to tomorrow, USA, I got to get this straight. Before we move forward, anything, now that we have the entire data from the opening match days, the first round, anything that's changed your mind? Anything, because we have new data points. Anything that's changed your mind from what you've seen?
On the U.S.?
Well, no, in general, because we had all these.
I'm more enthused. I think it's been great to see how the minnows have stepped up and have been able to play. It's made the games really, really entertaining. I think a lot of people were really excited about, if you stayed up late last night and watched Colombia, Uzbekistan. That's not the premiere on Fox. It's on FS1, but they were. A lot of people enthused by just the grittiness and the toughness and the determination and the fight of the Colombians. The last goal was pure grit and determination, and it put together with a quality finish, and a guy really skying to score it on a header. So all of that makes those of us who've been watching this for a long time,
even with the underdogs having their. That's what I mean.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think if you look at talk about your big stars. Okay, France slow start, stepped up and delivered. Mbappe stepped up and delivered. Argentina, huge performance, big time win. Spain, I think, okay, they're still kind of getting out of the driveway, but they're going to be okay. They didn't lose the game; they tied the game, so they're still right there in the mix of things. And then you look at the other team that not that many people are talking about, are the English, and Harry Kane with a great performance yesterday.
Couple goals.
They were. I thought they were really, really strong and really, really, because the Croatians are a dangerous side, and they were the English, I think, put on a super performance. So I think they are clearly one of the you talk about your top 6 teams that can win it. England are definitely in that for sure.
You were telling me if people want to get their World Cup on, they want to sit down in front of the TV and not move. Sure, we got USA Australia 2:00. Make your reservations. Turn off your phone. Tell people leave you alone. But tomorrow's a really good viewing day.
It is, and so what they've done is they space these games out 3 hours apart. So the game lasts approximately 2 hours. You got an hour in between to take care of it, whatever you're supposed to be doing that day.
Make a pizza run, go run errands so you don't piss off the significant other. Yeah, you got time.
Whatever it is, but you've got 5. So again, 2:00 USA against Australia. Find a way to get in front of the TV with some friends to watch that one, and I think that will be an entertaining. And again, if we can get 3 points, then it's fantastic. 5:00, you've got Scotland and Morocco coming off of a great result against Brazil. Scotland, who if you can turn the volume up even for the national anthems, you're going to be the Scottish, the Tartan Army that has invaded the U.S. is spectacular, and it was unfortunate that Ireland didn't make it in, and Wales didn't make it in, because you would have had this on a few different fan bases. But the Scots are a lot of fun, and the team is good. Scott McTominay, I'm a big fan of, and I would love to see them be able to go out and pull off a result. They're winning the group right now, which nobody in Glassboro would have said that would have happened. So that's a 5:00 game, and then 8:00 is Haiti and Brazil. And the Haitians are, again, super athletic, super passionate in the way that they play. The Brazilians are the Brazilian masters. They're not the over the top superstars that they've been in the past, and that showed a little bit in the first match. So can the Brazilians step up and really make it work against what is going to be an organized and dedicated Haitian side? And again, that will be turn up the sound, because it's going to be the fans alone will be entertainment in that one.
5-8, USA 2, 5-8. Great day World Cup viewing, and it's one of those. Unless you got something planned, turn it on until you feel like turning it off. By the way, Coach, that's how I've always approached sports. Maybe that's why I'm the junk I am. I always turn something on until it tells me to turn it off.
Yeah.
That's why I've watched some of the weirdest things ever in sports, because if it's just sport, I'll turn it on until it tells me to turn it off. I've watched some incredible things that I've had no idea what's actually going on.
Yeah, well, if I don't know about you, but I'll be watching, I'll streaming whatever, and up on the upper right corner on Apple, be like, oh, it's upset happening, and this, it's like
upset alerts.
Okay, let's go. So
got to watch the end of that.
And then, so that's tomorrow, and then on Saturday down in Houston at NRG is going to be talk about 2 incredible fan bases. The Dutch and their Orange Army will be down there. Lots of fun to be around that group. Playing against the Swedes. Swedes coming off of a really good first round match. So going to be a lot of really tall people down there, I think.
I know so many people are going to that.
And, the game starts, I think it's a noon kickoff. I think the stadium opens 3 hours before. I would suggest getting down. If you're going down, go down as early as you possibly can. Don't show up 15 minutes before the match, because
soak it in.
You're going to miss.
Soak it in.
You're going to miss
right?
a lot of the real joy and passion that follows this
soak
event.
in the experience. If you're going to one of these, or just if you're not going in, just go be a part of the experience.
Yep.
Coach, thank you always. I look forward to these. This World Cup is. I've participated as a fan. I've never got to play. I tried, but they keep turning me away. But I've participated as a fan. This is turning out to be something special. Hopefully USA can help make it more specialer, or the most specialist. But this turned out to be really special.
Yep. So far, so good. So far, so good. And we still, we go until the 18th of July. I had a friend of mine who's like, how do I tell my My wife wants to know how much longer this World Cup is going to go on. We were trying to come up with, the games will slow down after the 28th. How's that?
She's already counting down days now. She's not going to make it. That's the easiest answer. Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, buddy.
This is the Louie Bellina Show. I'll be right back. I got a treat for you. Just trust me on this one. This is the Louie Bellina Show inside the Charles Schwab studio Thursday on The Zone.
The Louie Bellina Show, presented by CC Electric. Don't ask unless you want the truth, because you can't handle the truth. Weekdays, 11 to 2 on The Zone.
Time now. It's a listen-in Greg McElroy Always College Football podcast, but it's an odd listen-in, and I'll explain why. It's part 3. Wait a minute, where was 1 and 2? That's tomorrow. Then why are we listening to 3? Okay, let me explain. A&M football head coach Mike Elko joined the Always College Football had to sneeze, sorry. Greg McElroy had Mike Elko, A&M football head coach, on his podcast. It's incredible. I've seen it all over the socials. They're playing clip after clip because Elko is that freaking good. But we know that. We know he's that good. Tomorrow, Caleb will be hosting. He does Fridays on the Louie Bellina Show. And you'll have part 1 and 2. You'll get to hear everything Mike Elko had to say with Greg McElroy. It's amazing. Now, after Elko left, Greg McElroy's podcast continues. And what McElroy did, and this is what we're going to listen into, is kind of went and mentioned the other coaches hired during this time frame and under Mike Elko. It's kind of a wrap-up of the timeline of coaches that were hired, and that's what we're listening into right now.
That's Coach Mike Elko of the Texas A&M Aggies. I mean, this is a coach that knows exactly where the gaps are, man. He doesn't coach around the hard question, doesn't manage expectations downward so that he can exceed them in September. I mean, he tells you what the work is, and he goes and does the work. If you look at what they accomplished last year, 11 wins, first college football playoff visit in program history. Year 3 has a loaded schedule, no doubt about it. A couple new coordinators for the first time, a rebuilt offensive line that will be tested early. And I don't know if this is the year that A&M necessarily takes the next step or the year that it's a grind. But, man, what I do know is that Mike Elko has built something real in College Station. And 2 years ago, nobody was asking if A&M could go and win a national championship very, very soon. Well, now they are, and that's the job he's been able to do, which transitions us into a bigger picture conversation. I mean, let's shift gears for a moment because we just talked about, I mean, Elko is going into year number 3 at A&M with a playoff appearance already on his resume. And that kind of got me thinking a little bit about the class of coaches that he came in with, because the 2024 hiring cycle was one of the more consequential in the history of the sport, right? Nick Saban retired. Jim Harbaugh decides to leave for the NFL after winning a national championship. And the dominoes that fell across the sport led to 13 new Power 4 head coaches that took the field that September. Now, here we are 2 years later. We know a lot more about whether or not those hires have worked, which ones are still maybe a bit of a work in progress, and the ones that have already blown up on the launch pad. So let's go through them a little bit, and I'll give you the first list, the full list, if you will, because some of these names you might know and some you might have forgotten about. There were 13 new Power 4 coaches in 24. Kalen DeBoer at Alabama, Mike Elko at Texas A&M, Manny Diaz at Duke, Jed Fish at Washington, Willie Fritz at Houston, Fran Brown at Syracuse, Bill O'Brien at Boston College, Jeff Lebby at Mississippi State, Sharon Moore at Michigan, Jonathan Smith at Michigan State, Deshaun Foster at UCLA, and of course, Kurt Cignetti at Indiana. That's 13 coaches, and 2 years later, we need to sort them out, because at the top of the list, and it's not particularly close, you have to have Kurt Cignetti at Indiana, right? I mean, the guy's won 24 games, has just 3 losses in 2 seasons. He's won back-to-back Walter Camp Coach of the Year awards. That's the first coach in the history of the award to win it in consecutive seasons. He made the college football playoff in year number 1, went 13-1, won the Big Ten championship, and then went on to win the national championship in year number 2 with a remarkable, 15-0 record, 16-0 record, whatever it was. But before Cignetti even arrived, Indiana held the record for the most losses in FBS history. Let that sink in for a moment. From the most losses in FBS history to a national champion, in just 2 years. That's not a rebuild. We don't have a word for that yet. It's just how remarkable the hire was of Curt Cignetti at Indiana. But right behind him, and also in the conversation, maybe if we remove Cignetti, because he's kind of operating in a different stratosphere, but right behind him in the conversation for the best hire of the cycle is Mike Elko at A&M. And we've covered him in depth already. But if you look at what he's accomplished, going 19-7, the first college football playoff appearance in school history, that was in year number 2. I mean, that's a real body of work, and it feels like the arrow is pointing up for A&M as long as Elko is their head coach. Kalen DeBoer at Alabama is right there as well. He's 20-8. Year 1 was a bit rocky with some real high peaks and some real low lows. Went 9-4, did miss the playoff. People point to the Vanderbilt loss. People point to the performance against Oklahoma. Everyone was restless, understandably. But if you look at year number 2, there was a genuine step forward. They went 11-4. They made the SEC championship game. They made the playoff and kind of got the program back on track and back kind of headed in the right trajectory. Was rewarded with a lengthy extension that made him one of the highest paid coaches in the league. And frankly, in all of college football, I mean, Alabama clearly believes that DeBoer entering year number 3 is making real progress as he continues to get his players in after the abrupt departure of Nick Saban. Manny Diaz at Duke might be the most underrated hire of this entire practice. He's got back-to-back 9-win seasons and won the ACC championship in year number 2, the first outright ACC title for Duke since 1962. And no one nationally ever really talks about Manny Diaz. And I think that's a mistake because the Blue Devils are legitimately good, and he built it pretty quick. Jed Fish at Washington is in there as well. He's 15-11 across 2 seasons. Year 1 was a challenge, but you kind of have to understand what he walked into. When Kalen DeBoer left for Alabama, he took a handful of really meaningful pieces with him in the portal, plus they had a ton of departures off that national championship runner-up crew. So Fish was handed, I would say, a bit of a skeleton crew and kind of asked to survive the first year in the Big Ten. Well, he survived and then made progress in year number 2 by going 9-4. So the direction is heading in the right way for the Huskies there at UW. Willie Fritz at Houston, one of the best stories in the entire class that no one really talked about. He went 4-8 in year number 1, 10-3 in year number 2. That's the largest single season turnaround in the country. Finished in the top 25, gets a bowl win over LSU. He has now had 10 win seasons at 5 different schools. 5. So there's a blueprint here. And for Willie Fritz, it seems to work every single time. Now we get into slightly more complicated assessments right now because you look at Fran Brown at Syracuse. Yes, he's 13-12 across 2 seasons, but the way those numbers break down a little bit strange. Was 10-3 in year number 1, really overachieved, and then came back to earth a little bit last year by going just 3-9. Some turnover, some new pieces for sure, but same coach, same program, completely different results. So I guess year 3 is going to tell us something really important. Are we looking at Fran Brown long-term, or was 1 year a kind of a blip on the radar, 1 down year, a blip on the radar before they get back on track? We'll find out this upcoming season. You also can look at Jeff Lebby at Mississippi State, whose record is disappointing. He's just 7-18 overall after going 2-10 in year 1 and 5-8 in year number 2. But the improvement's real. To go from 2 wins to 5 wins is meaningful progress. Going from 0-8 in the SEC to 1-7 in the SEC, a little bit less meaningful. But you look at the overtime losses, 1 to Texas, 1 to Tennessee. My honest read on Lebby is that he inherited a program that had, let's just be honest, less returning talent than just about any team in the country. And the SEC makes it even tougher. And the rebuild is happening. It's just happening slowly. So year number 3 will tell us, all right, what's a realistic step that can be taken with some new personnel. You also look at Bill O'Brien at Boston College, who's under 500 as well, went 4-8 first year, 5-7 the second. Not a disaster, but it's also not really the progress that you're hoping for because Boston College is a complicated job for sure. But hopefully Bill O'Brien can continue to develop the players that they need to take a legitimate step. There are 3 coaches, however, from this class that will not be entering year number 3. Deshaun Foster at UCLA, Jonathan Smith at Michigan State, and Sharon Moore at Michigan. 3 coaches gone before year 3 even arrived, 2 of which for football reasons, one of them for reasons that have nothing to do with football, so we'll keep that one relatively brief. Deshaun Foster was fired 3 games into year number 2. losses to Utah, UNLV, and New Mexico. And the Bruins were outscored 108-43 in the process, and they paid him approximately $6 million to go. Now, I want to be careful because I think the Foster situation is a little bit difficult, right? He was hired in February of 24, really late. Chip Kelly decides to bolt for Ohio State. Got a really short runway there before the first season. Actually did okay. Had some moments there in year number one. You saw some progress being made at the end of year number one. And then year number two opened with 3 games that looked like a program that was in a bit of a free fall. So was there enough evidence to pull the plug? It's tough to say. And I think most people felt guilty about it because most people really respect Deshaun Foster. But he was in a really difficult situation, giving him such a late start. I think everybody acknowledged that as well. So hopefully he can get another shot at some point here very, very soon. Jonathan Smith at Michigan State is a little bit more straightforward. He was 9-15 over 2 years, was 4-8 in year number 2, including an 8-game losing streak. That's one of the longest in program history. Michigan State paid over $30 million to move on, to fire a coach after 2 years. Now, I want to note something here. They have paid a lot of money to coaches in the past. They're on their 3rd head coach in 3 years. And every time that ongoing buyout, resetting the roster, restarting the recruiting relationships, and starting the clock over on player development, that's a cost, right? It's a very, very real cost. However, I think bringing in Pat Fitzgerald, understanding that you had a notable, legitimate upgrade potentially, it made a ton of sense. Like, I think Jonathan Smith's a good coach. Tough situation, poor results. I still think he's a good coach. But you go and get Pat Fitzgerald, a guy that's probably a Hall of Famer as a head coach. It makes sense to make that move, even if it costs you $33 million. And Jerome Moore at Michigan, like, we know he was fired for cause, right, with an off-field conduct violation. So it's a completely separate conversation. We're moving on.
That wraps up our listening. That was Greg McElroy, his Always College Football podcast. And tomorrow, you're going to hear Mike Elko, who joined him. Part 1 and 2 all tomorrow. That was the after, when he took a look at all the coaches that were hired with Mike Elko during that cycle and his thoughts on them. I thought it was fascinating. I thought it was cool. When we return, I got to wrap up our lunch hour together, and lunchtime on the Louie Bellina Show, Monday through Friday, 11 to 2. Lunchtime on the Louie Bellina Show is thanks to Rudy's Barbecue, home of the green chili stew.
The Houston Astros play on the zone. Thanks to Kelly Bird Dozer.
This just in, got an email, got an alert. Producer Jeanette printed it, but Scott Livingstone, if you know, you know, was selected as a member of the College Baseball Hall of Fame Class 2026. It was announced by the College Baseball Foundation. Scott Livingstone, College Baseball Hall of Fame Class of 2026. Damn right. When Rusty Burson joins me, we'll talk a lot more about that. Here's the College Baseball Hall of Fame Class of 2026. Barry Bonds. Holy cow. Jeff Brantley. I'm not naming it. Marquise Grissom. Bobby Lane. Bobby Jones. Scott Livingstone. But I already told you that one. David McCarty. Lloyd Peaver. Buster Posey. Mike Smith. Dave Stegman. Houston Street. He was pretty good. Brent Strom. And the coaches are Danny Hall, Hall Smeltzy, administrator. Okay, we can stop there. So, Barry Bonds, Scott Livingstone. And again, Buster Posey, but Houston Street was pure stud.